Good morning, students. Welcome back to this software engineering class again. Today we are going to discuss about detailed design. So you should know the difference between the design that we have been discussing in the past few classes and what is this detailed design is. In the past few classes, we discussed about system design. And system design, in the system design we followed two approaches. One is function oriented design and object oriented design. Okay, so what is the main idea behind the system design? In the system design, we concentrated on the modules in a system and how they interact with each other. What are the various modules that are required for solving that problem and how they should interact with each other. That was the goal in the system design. We never bothered about the internal content of each module. What is the logic to be followed inside a module? That is not the aim of that system design. The logic inside a module that we are going to discuss now, and that is what detailed design. So once the module is precisely specified, the internal logic that will implement the given specification should be given. That's what we are going to do it in the detailed design. Most design techniques like structured design identify the major modules and the major data flow among them. The methods used to specify the system design typically focus on the external interfaces of the modules and cannot be extended to specify the internals. This process design language, the process design language is one way in which the design can be communicated precisely and completely to whatever degree of detail desired by the designer. We should have a more detailed discussion about this PDL, process design language. One way to communicate a design is to specify it in a natural language like English. But this approach will lead to misunderstanding and improper communication is expected. Imprecise communication is not useful for converting the design into programming codes. This is one aspect. The other aspect, other extreme is to communicate precisely in a formal language like a programming language. Such representations often have great detail which is not necessary for implementation but not important for communicating the design. So these are the two extremes. The natural language, the design cannot be converted to code very easily. That is one extreme. The other extreme, you are using some formal languages that is too detailed and that is not that much needed. Okay, so we need some intermediate mechanism wherein we can convert our design into coding. So we would like to express the design in a language that is as precise and unambiguous as possible without having too much detail, and that can easily be converted into an implementation. That's what this PDL does. This PDL, this PDL, the process design language, has an overall outer syntax of a structured programming language and has a vocabulary of a natural language. It can be thought of as a structured English basically, because the structure of a design expressed in PDL is formal, using the formal language constructs, and some amount of automated processing can be done on such designs. Look at this example. Here we try to find the minimum value in a array. So this is a code designed using a PDL. Say array A, do until the end of input, read all the items of A, then take the first item of the array as the maximum value and the minimum value. Then for each item in the array A, if the max is less than item, then set max to that item. Okay. Then if minimum is greater than item, then set minimum to that item. Like this, at the end of this loop, you would have find out the which is the maximum value and which is the minimum value of the given array. It is so simply developed using this PDL approach. Okay. With PDL, a design can be expressed in whatever level of detail that is suitable for the problem. One way to use PDL is to generate a rough outline of the entire solution at a given level of detail. When the design is agreed on at this level, more detail can be added. So this allows a successive refinement approach and can save some considerable cost by detecting the design errors early during the design phase. So it also helps in verification of the design. Okay. The basic control constructs of PDL are similar to those of our any of the structured languages like C language or C++ language like this. It too has its if condition. It is similar to that of if else condition in C language or C++ language. Okay. If then else condition. Okay. It has its own switch statement. It has its own do condition, while do condition, and the purpose and meaning are similar to that of any structured language. Okay. Do while, repair, for loop, everything is there. The purpose and meaning is similar to any other structured language. So PDL is one technique wherein wherein a design can be converted into a code. A module, the logic for a module can be formed and it can be converted into a code, PDL. Then, yet another technique is algorithm. See, algorithm you have already studied in your from your first year onwards. An algorithm is one of the problem solving method. An algorithm doesn't follow any language constraints. It doesn't follow any constraints imposed in a particular programming language like C language or C++ language. Of course, it has its own control structures like loop, for loop, do while loop, and everything it is there. But without specific to any of the programming language, it has its own characteristics like input, output. Every statement should be unambiguous and easy to execute it, and it has its own method of verifying itself. So algorithm is a step-by-step instruction to solve a problem. It is a step-by-step instruction of solve a problem. It contains a finite number of steps. On executing these steps, the algorithm will come to a stop, will terminate. Okay, it will not keep on executing. Okay, so basically an algorithm is a step-by-step instruction to solve a problem, and all the instructions have their own characteristics. So an algorithm is one way to design a module and convert that into a coding. Then the third one is the next one is state modeling. State modeling. See, for object-oriented design, we have discussed a lot about that. The object-oriented design doesn't focus on the internal logic of the each module. It has its own classes, objects like that. But a class is not a functional abstraction and cannot be viewed as an algorithm. And also, a method of a class can be used as a functional module. Okay. See, in the class, we don't give any internal logic. It has its own method, and within each method, we give the logic of what that particular method is doing. Okay. So, one way to understand the behavior of a class is to view it as a finite state automata. FSA. A finite state automata consists of states and transitions between states which take place when some events occur. When modeling an object, the state is the value of its attributes, and an event is the performing of an operation on that object. A state diagram relates events and states by showing how the state changes when an event is performed. A state diagram for an object will generally have an initial state from which all states in the FSA are reachable. A state diagram for an object does not represent all the actual states of the object, as there are many possible states. A state diagram attempts to represent only the logical states of the object. Now, what is this logical state? A logical state of an object is a combination of all those states from which the behavior of the object is similar for all possible events. Again, I tell you, a logical state of an object is a combination of all those states from which the behavior of the object is similar for all possible events. Two logical states will have different behavior for at least one event. Yeah. So we have discussed about three ways in which the internal logic of a module can be attempted. One way is process design language PDL, and another one is algorithm, and the third one is finite state automata, FSA. Now, having discussed about, having decided about, having understood about the internal logic of a module, the logic has to be verified. See, from the very beginning of this software development, we have some verification mechanism. Verification mechanism for the requirement phase, verification mechanism for the system design, then verification mechanism for the detailed design. Now, the focus of verification in the detailed design phase is on showing that the detailed design meets the specifications laid down in the system design. Validating that the system as designed is consistent with the requirements of the system is not stressed during detailed design. So what are the various verification methods used for detailed design? They are design walkthroughs, design review, and consistency checking. Design walkthroughs, design reviews, and consistency checking. What is this design walkthrough? Yeah, design walkthrough is a Manual method of verification. See, the way the design walkthrough is performed varies from one organization to another organization. Yeah, design walkthrough is done in an informal meeting called by the designer or the leader of the designers group. Usually, this walkthrough group is small and contains, along with the designer, the group leader, and another other designers of the group. The designer might just get together with a colleague for a walkthrough, or the group leader might require the designer to have a walkthrough with him. So, in this design walkthrough, the designer explains the logic step by step, and the members of the group ask questions, point out possible errors, or seek clarification. The advantage of this walkthrough is that the process of explaining the design in detail, the designer himself can uncover some of the errors during this explanation of the design. Okay. The second method is design verification is design reviews. The purpose of this critical design review is to ensure that the detailed design satisfies the specifications laid down during the system design. This critical design review process is similar to inspection process, in which a group of people get together to discuss the design with the aim of revealing design errors or undesirable properties in the design. The review group includes the author of that detailed design, members of that system design team, a programmer who will convert that design into a code. Okay. So the design, as expected, a design review will have a checklist. Okay. So the checklist will be presented during the review meeting, and everything will be checked. All the items are checked. Say a checklist might have the following items. Does each of the modules in the system design exist in detailed design? Are there analysis to demonstrate that the performance requirements can be met? Are all the assumptions explicitly stated, and are they acceptable? Exception conditions are handled or not? Data formats are consistent with the system design or not? Is the design structured one, and it meets the local standards or not? Or the modules are highly cohesive? Uh, like this, there are several review checklists are there, and everything has to be checked out. Okay. Then the third way of validation, design validation is verification is consistency checkers. Consistency checkers are essentially compilers that take as input the design specified in the PDL, maybe. They cannot produce executable code because the inner syntax of PDL allows natural language, and many activities are specified in the natural language. So it cannot be it cannot produce an executable code. However, the module interface specifications are specified formally. A consistency checker can ensure that any modules invoked or used by a given module actually exists in the design and that the interface used by the caller is consistent with the interface design of the called module. It can also check if the used global data items are indeed defined globally in the design. So these are the three ways in which a design can be verified. They are design walkthroughs, design review meetings, and the consistency checkers. So what is expected next? Metrics. Metrics for detailed design. So again and again I tell you, the software metrics for any activity is a quantifiable measure. Okay. See, some of the metrics used for detailed design are cyclomatic complexity network metrics, stability metrics, and information flow metrics. These are the metrics that are followed. Okay. Now we shall see them one by one. So what is this cyclomatic graph matrix? For a graph G with n nodes, E edges, and P connected components, the cyclomatic number V of G, cyclomatic number V of G is defined as E minus n plus P. E minus n plus P. So, to use this number to define the cyclomatic complexity of a module, the control flow graph G of the module is first drawn. To construct a control flow graph of a program module, break the module into blocks delimited by statements that affect the control flow, like if structure, while structure, repeat until structure, go to structures like this. These blocks form the nodes of the graph. If the control from a block I can branch to a block J, then an arc is drawn from I to J in the graph. So using this control graph, a matrix is attempted, a quantifiable number is derived, and that will give you an idea of whether the detailed design is correct or not, that is going in the right perspective or not. So that is the advantage of having this cyclomatic number. The next one is stability matrix data binding. Data bindings are measures that capture the data interaction across portions of a software system. A potential data binding is defined as a triplet P, X, Q, where P and Q are modules and X is a variable within the static scope of both P and Q. This reflects the possibility that the modules P and Q may communicate with each other through the shared variable x. This binding does not consider the internals of P and Q to determine if the variable x is actually accessed in any of the modules. The next one is cohesion matrix. So here we try to quantify the cohesion of a module. To compute the value of the cohesion matrix for a module M, a flow graph G is constructed for M. Each vertex in G is an executable statement in M. For each node, we also record the variable referenced in the statement. An arc exists from a node S to another node Sj, Si to Sj, if the statement Sj can immediately follow the statement Si in some execution of the module. In addition to this, we add an initial node I from where the execution of the module starts and a final node T at which the execution of the module terminates. For termination statements like return, exit, we draw an arc from the statement to T. From the graph G, from the flow graph G, a reduced flow graph is constructed by deleting those nodes that do not refer to any variable. All the arcs coming in the deleted node are redirected to the node that is the successor of the deleted node. So these are the ideas behind the logic within a module. We have seen what are the various techniques that can be used to form the logic within a module, and we have seen how to verify the logic within of a module, and how to quantify the logic within a module using the metrics. Okay, so this completes the detailed design. Okay, so you should know the difference between system design and detailed design. In the system design, we try to identify various modules and their relationship with others, whereas in a detailed design, we try to form the logic within a module. That is the aim of this particular chapter, detailed design. Okay. So we shall see rest of the things in the next class.